Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com. In a world controlled by massive corporations, a steady aim and split-second decisions are needed for your Megacon to complete its goals. Begin your missions at the Mercs Hub on beastsofwar.com.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Relics beta test video. Right, John, I actually missed the last one, so I may rely on you a little bit.
You did, yes.
I was away on my travels, but we are, of course, joined by Gav from Tor Gaming. And Gav, what has changed recently in the rule set here?
Okay, well, for starters, in the main rules, we've mainly got two main changes in that. The first one's during army construction. You know about the advantage pool system that we have in the game now?
Yeah, I remember it from the little game that you, me, and John played. It's basically, I can take an advantage during the game, but it gives a point to John because I've decided that I need it, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. And what we've done is we've added to the army construction stage that you can now buy advantage points when you're building your army. Now, there's limitations on it. At the moment, the limitations are quite clunky, but we've already had some good community feedback on it and some good suggestions that we're probably going to take up. But essentially, because of the way that the point system works now, when you build your army, you're always left with a few points left over. So we now give you the opportunity to spend those on advantage points before the game even starts.
Okay. Well, for someone out there that's thinking of jumping in on the beta test and doesn't know exactly what advantage points do, what do they do in the game?
Okay, well, basically, the advantage points is like a scale system, and you've got an advantage pool, and there's two advantage lists. There's a generic advantage list, which you can use at any time, but when you use it, the opponent can potentially get an advantage point to place in their pool. They get that on a 5+. On your profile, some of your attributes would be classed as advantages, and you can't use those unless you've got the advantages on your profile will generate the points for your opponent, and then to use the ones on the generic list, you need to spend points from the pool. And the generic list of advantages are stuff like increasing your attacks, being able to actually redeploy without a defense modifier being applied to your unit. So they're really quite handy bonuses, especially for sort of smaller, cheaper units, that they enable them to take on the bigger, harder units. But obviously you can't do them unless you've got advantage points in your pool, and you only get advantage points in your pool if your opponent uses the advantages off of their unit profiles, which are quite nice sort of rules.
Okay.
They give sort of units some nice little flavour.
Yeah. So also with one of the changes in the main rules, the action phase description changed.
Yes, we had some feedback from one of the community guys, Mark Bonatti, I think his surname's pronounced. He offered up a solution for the way that we dealt with actions in the rules by basically splitting them into two types, which are just actions and then commands, and the commands you can use when you're in command range. Effectively, the rules are still the same, but what he's done is he's actually just made it so much easier to understand. So, and that's what the beat is all about, is stuff like that. And so we've instantly taken that and slapped it straight into the rules. And it makes it so much easier to understand when you're playing the game. Oh, I'm out of command. I can't use the command list, but I can use the actions list.
Yeah,
right.
So much easier.
Well, I mean, like it's nice to see that people are actually saying, you know what, if you word it this way, it's a little bit clearer, just to let beginners actually jump in a little bit easier.
Yeah.
The next one I'm seeing that you've called out for us here is Aura of Protection 1 added. What's this?
Aura of Protection 1 added.
Yes, it's one of the things you've put into our little show notes here to actually tell us which changes you've made.
Oh, no. Okay, no, that's Aura of Protection I.
Right.
The I, basically, it's a new attribute. And after an attribute, you've got an I or a C, and they did note whether it's a conscious or innate attribute. So it depends on when you can use them. And that new attribute is actually part of the Baron. So the Baron, the Raiden Duke, the new model, it's one of his attributes. So we've added him to the profile list for the Raidens, and obviously updated the attributes list to include that attribute. And what that does is that allows you to select a mounted knight unit and increase their defense.
Okay. Well,
so he's a bit of a buff.
Yeah,
it's nice to have those little bits where you can actually swing the game a little bit more in your favor.
Yeah.
Now, we're seeing a couple of other little things here, in particularly in the attributes. There are more clarifications, is what I'm getting a sense of here, like the do as I say.
Well, the do as I say one, that's on the company side you made it. That had a slight tweaking because of the change to the command wording that Mark Bonatti suggested. Because he suggested that now means that we can actually, the do as I say was kind of a bit keen, because you could effectively, it allowed you to remove the activated status from the unit and they could activate again. And by doing that, you could have a unit that could redeploy, then actually do an aimed shot or something like that, which was a little bit keen. By rewriting the command rules, the way the command and actions lists work, the do as I say then meant that we could actually say that when you use that, you can't use commands, you can only use actions for the second activation, which then basically meant that we could dial that down a bit to where it needed to be.
So it was a little bit less, I can move and then nuke you.
Yes.
Yeah. The next one I'm seeing is called His Very Own Men, modified to add Mercenary to the X unit if necessary. So what is His Very Own Men to begin with, Gav?
Well, His Very Own Men is a profile which is on Maverick Mike, which is a mercenary. And what it allowed, what we've actually done is we've made a change. So we'll jump from that to the Maverick Mike profile, because we've made a change to the profile itself. Or we made a change. His Very Own Men is normally listed on the profile with another profile name. And what it was His Very Own Men, and it was Maverick Boys. We've changed that Maverick Boys to Troopers, which means that Maverick Mike can take a unit of Troopers with him when used as a mercenary in another army. And what we've done is by making the change to add Mercenary means that it basically just tidies up the legality of taking a Trooper unit in a Nuim force, for instance. It adds the mercenary tag onto that trooper unit, so that they have to follow the mercenary rules that may apply.
Right, I see. Okay, John, is there any more here that you're seeing jump out at you?
You've rewritten the Reign of Death rule. Now, can you explain what that rule was and what it is now?
Yeah, Reign of Death was actually an attribute on the Brooken profile. The Brooken profile's got quite an extensive rewrite, and part of that was to actually rewrite the Reign of Death, and we renamed it Stone Them to Death, because Reign of Death, it implies it's like a ranged attack, and the Brooken had a ranged attack. We've removed that and made them more of a close combat unit. So Stone Them to Death has actually been renamed so it doesn't confuse people, and Stone of Death actually now means that the number of dice they roll in combat increases by 1 for every elemental unit that's within a certain range. I have the actual ruling here. Where is it? So you increase this unit's melee dice by 1 for each elemental squad within 4 inches. So the blocking really comes into his own when he's surrounded with other Vatia units.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, I'm seeing you've made a change to Rage. You've changed it from C to I. So this is what we were talking about, the conscious and what was the other word? Innate abilities. So how does this actually change the Rage rule, and what does the Rage rule do?
Rage rule. What does the Rage do? That's a good question. Let me just find it.
Trust us to be awkward on camera, guys. We're asking him every awkward question we can under the sun.
Okay, reading from the actual rules, it's Rage. When this unit receives 1 or more points of damage in melee, immediately make a melee attack roll against the enemy unit. This is in addition to the unit's activation, and it can be used multiple times, but must be used against different targets. So what we've actually done there is essentially, it's if you attack me and I take a point of damage, I get to attack you back. By having it, by changing it from a C to an I, means that it's always in effect. If it has a C on it, then there'd be certain situations like if he was out of control, if he was out of command, he wouldn't be able to use it, stuff like that. So essentially, Rage is something that you've got no control over. So it really should be an I attribute, not a C attribute.
Right. So what we're really seeing here is the action phase description being rewritten. You're seeing all of the changes that are starting to filter down through the rest of the units that it's going to affect. Which I like the idea of. It's nice to see that you're getting that knock-on effect and it's actually being taken care of.
What I'm liking the look of so far is that a lot of the corrections we have in this current version of the rules is they're more clarification than they are a complete rewrite. There's a couple of things that are changing, but it seems like the rule set is standing up pretty well to the community so far. Would you say that, Gav?
Yeah, I'm actually quite pleased with the lack of mass rewriting that we've had to do. in actual fact, the only sort of major rewriting we've had to do was on the Brooken. The change on the Maverick was on Maverick Mike was sort of something we'd done because previously Maverick Mike would allow you to take a unit of Maverick boys at half price, and I kind of didn't want that requirement that you had to have, you could take Maverick boys without Maverick Mike, and I wanted to actually be able to make Maverick Mike a bit more interesting. So being able to enable him to take Trooper unit with him gives him different tactical options to taking him. But again, that's not a major rewrite. The only major rewrite we really had is the Brooken, and at this stage, I'm really pleased by that sort of that uptake and the fact that all the changes we are having to make, other than the Brooken, are generally just sort of tweaking and tidying up, which is great news.
Yeah, well, I will say one thing, John. I need to get a little bit of revenge on you because I was watching the last video, and you were talking a little bit of smack about what happened during our game with you, me, and Gav. About a little unit of my lovely little Nuim who were just having a nice country stroll, and then some Scottish Highlanders turned up and chopped them to bits.
Yeah, I had some Scottish puppets rock up and tear you a new one. So, but that's not me smack talking. That's not me smack talking. That is just me playing the game as Gav intended.
That's nothing special. I wouldn't worry too much about it, Justin. You'll not be the first to have be on the receiving end of their broadswords, and I don't think you'll be the last.
Honestly, I want to get a fight back, which is why I've actually went ahead to the Tor Gaming main website. I've printed out the latest set of the rules, the latest set of the advantages attributes, and I've printed both army lists for us.
We have our army lists as well.
So, John, I want you and me to get settled down on the table. I'm going to take the Nuim, and I know you're going to take the Britannons at some point.
Of course I am.
Well, small, angry British puppets. What's not to love?
With a few Scottish ones thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, and who obviously doesn't love sadomasochistic dwarves who live in paint suits?
Well,
nobody.
He said it. His words, not mine.
No, it is one of the things I want to do because, yes, the community is getting to test this, but I think it would be nice if you and me actually got to sit down and do a bit of play testing ourselves on our two favourite factions to actually see if we can find something, maybe break something, and give Gav a bit of a headache. Just going, how do I fix this?
So as a reminder, because you weren't in the last video, and Gav and I were talking about it before, if you're on Beasts of War, I believe if you're a member of Beasts of War, I can't remember if you need to be a backstage or not, but if you are a member, you have access to starter bundles, specific Beasts of War starter bundles on the Tor Gaming website.
Right.
So there's a few of the factions there that are available for you guys. There's a little bit of a special sort of bundle-ish thrown.
All right, I'll tell you what, I'll make sure that there's a link in the description below so that you can go through and get your hands on those if you're wanting to jump in on the actual beta test with us. And all of the rules are completely free to download. Yeah, Gav?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, just on the download page. We don't, just go there, download them, and have some fun.
I'll link those through as well, just so that everybody can, get their hands on the rule and start playing around with Relics, because it's a really, really funky, cool, weird little world that I kind of want to explore a little bit more.
And it's a dice mechanic that I really enjoy because, as Warren and I were talking about before, being able to roll doubles for anything, doesn't matter what the double is.
You can roll double one.
It's still satisfying, even if you roll like rubbish. If you get a double of it, you're winning. So.
Such a strange sort of euphoric feeling that you get when you double one an opponent and kill them.
Yes.
Yes.
But it completely throws out that normal bell curve that you see of going, okay, if I have this stat, I can do this, whereas you're going, how do I combine all my stuff with my gang up attacks? I
just like I just like the fact that we're not having to necessarily play with the likes of how good is this guy with a gun, how good is this guy with a sword. It all just seems that, especially in the Britannian, it just feels like these little mass-produced puppets that are gonna hit sometimes, eventually, maybe. It doesn't matter how long they've been fighting for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just the actual thoughts behind the world are beautiful because of the way the world was generated. I'm not sure if the fluff is still the same, but whenever I was first reading into it, it was the idea that a massive mega spell had went off. You have the Britannons who used to be, very upstanding, British sort of culture. Now they've all just been turned into strange little stitch punk
dolls.
Words. Stitch punk puppets. Try saying that 5 times fast. And then you have the Nuim, who are the dwarves of the world, who were, tricked by some unknown entities into going into a mountain, turned into slaves for however many years. And then by the time they actually escape and gain their freedom again, you know, they've been living under the lash so long they can't live without it.
Yep.
You know, it's a really, really interesting little world to play about, and I think you're going to be able to make some really cool stories from it.
Definitely.
It's certainly a twisted little world, that's for sure.
Yep. Gav, before we finish up here, I have a little request for you.
Yeah.
When I got into this game first, when I was at university and I was looking at the models and stuff like that, I really wanted to do Sharp's rifles as a Britannian army.
Right.
So can I get, or can you make a set of alternative heads that have the rifles, hats and stuff on? 'Cause I think that would be kind of cool.
I can have a look at it.
Yes.
The thing is that the Britannians aren't actually based on Napoleonic era. They're based on Georgian, which is like about 1750 to 1800.
Crushing my dreams here, Gav.
More of independent sort of period.
We're in a fantasy world. There is one explanation for everything. If they turn up, 3 words for you.
What?
A wizard did it.
A wizard did it, yes. The wizard is on screen. Gav is on screen.
Yes, Gav is on screen.
The thing is, the vast majority of people associate with Napoleonic era anyway, so what does it matter?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll call it for that. Myself and John are going to get in on the beta test at some point. We may record the game, or we may get a couple in beforehand just to bed the rules in so that we're not making fools of ourselves on camera like we usually do.
I think people like watching that.
I don't know, you get a rule wrong, sometimes you get somebody raging. But anyway, we'll move on here, guys. Thank you for watching. If you are in on the beta test, or if you want to get in on the beta test, drop your comments in below if you have any suggestions for the actual beta test. Gav, where do you send them to actually put in their submissions for the beta test?
Well, we're kind of running it on Facebook at the moment, but it would be pretty awesome if we could have a forum based on Beasts of War for people that are on Beasts of War get involved in, to post their stuff on there, because then it's all in one place, and it's so much easier than trying to troll through a Facebook group, trying to find all of the feedback that's on that.
All right, well, I tell you what, I will specifically create a forum topic for the Relics 2.0 beta rules test and submissions and suggestions, and people can go from there.
Do you want to make the forum thing and then just post it in below here?
Yep, I'll have a link in the description to this video to submit your beta feedback for Relics.
Yep.
So we'll move on here, guys, and we will see you next time.
Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastsofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game. Fight for the Iron Kingdoms as a warcaster. Take control of the mighty jacks, arcane devices, and dark sorceries to bring the fight to the War Machine Hub on beastsofwar.com.